What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the PokerNews podcast. It is your girl, Auntie Chardonnay, here with Chad Holloway. We have got a great show for you guys this week. Chad talked to Brock Lesnar. Wah, wah.
JK. Yeah, not the Brock Lesnar of WWE or UFC fame, but rather the WSOP.com Player of the Year from 2021. We mentioned it in the last episode. And I had the opportunity to chat with him and get into his poker story and really talk about that race. And it's actually a pretty cool, very interesting guy. You usually don't have the online players be too interesting or be much of a character, if you will. But Mike Holtz, I think, is the exception. And I'm really looking forward to sharing that talk with everybody.
And also, Mike, just know that I'm not being salty at you. My husband did at one point fight the Brock Lesnar. And so like, I'm just salty at him. Like, no, there should be no shade, but it was definitely no shade to you.
We talked about that, Sarah, and you'll be happy to know that Mike just like rattled off. He's like, oh yeah, down to a whatever decision, because he's a huge UFC fan. So he knew all about your husband, Heath, and stuff, which was pretty cool.
Oh my gosh. Well, I should have joined the episode then, obviously. I have so much knowledge about that, guys. I'm the worst, actually. I'm the absolute worst. Everyone knows that. But we have a great show for you. Nonetheless, there's tons of interesting stories that popped out of the news cycle this week. And actually, I kind of feel like we should just, since we gave so much time last week to talking about Texas and Texas card rooms and how everyone should move to Texas and play poker in Texas and come to these card rooms, how, Andrew and Brad and Doug are buying card rooms in Texas, or at least investing in. Let's just kick it off with, this was a story actually that was interesting outside of poker. This story is something that I had in my local newspaper. Someone decided to go into a Houston area card room with a AK and was just fixing to rob the place. I believe he came in and said, I'm here to rob the place. And then some security guard comes from behind him, dude, and just straight tackles him. I think he dislocated his shoulder, but like, just went for it, which I'm like, dude, that guy is a boss. And yeah, like totally thwarted the whole thing.
Well, yeah, but what was really scary about the whole situation for me was this wasn't just for show. The gun actually went off. Like a dozen rounds got fired off or something like that after he got tackled. Fortunately, nobody was struck, but it's scary because this guy did go in there to rob the place, and he did so with a loaded AR-15, and things could have went very, very badly. Fortunately, the security guard was on top of things. The other patrons that were there helped restrain this guy once he was on the ground before the police arrived. And yeah, scary stuff. I've often thought about this happening in the poker world when there's so much money. When you're at a casino in Vegas, you feel a little more protected because there's armed security there. It's not easy to get away with things like that. But in Texas right now, these card rooms are operating in, basically like strip malls and things like that. And so it might not be the last we see something like this happening. It's not a good look, if you will, right? So we already talked about Texas kind of operating in this gray area, if you will. And when you get negative headlines, like there have been some coming out, Johnny Chan and his falling out with partners and that whole thing getting shut down and players not getting paid, the Sammy Farha fight, and now you get an armed robbery attempt. These are the sort of things that grab the attention of law enforcement, be it police or the district attorney's office and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, a lot of these rooms are legitimate. They're doing their best to operate above the board, working with local authorities. Here, this was Legends Poker Room. They had security. So shout out to Traylon Robinson. He was the security guard, goes by Tech, who is the hero of the day. But it did attract, Sarah, like you said, the local media. And so it shines a not so positive light when things like this take place. Fortunately, this was, a happy ending given the circumstances. But even still, when we try so hard to, make poker legitimate, paint it in a good light, these sort of stories always happen, and they always have, right? You harken back to the days of the Wild Wild West and the shootouts and card games and things like that.
But that's what I was thinking, and it was kind of the same when my truck got stolen and stuff too. I was like, dude, I came to Texas, and I just thought like, people aren't going to try to rob you and stuff in Texas because they'll know you have a gun too. So
right?
I was kind of surprised. I'm like, if I was going into a card room specifically in Texas, which I would not be going in to rob everyone, but let's just say I was, I would be concerned, a bank or anywhere else, like a lot of people conceal carry in Texas, and I would just be worried that somebody would be ready to fire back. But I guess he was not. And I was also wondering, how are the security guards armed, and what's sort of the legal, I don't know what the legal things are for security guards in terms of that, and in terms of making sure that they're protected legally.
Yeah, I don't know either, especially in Texas. And that's what is so kind of impressive to me about, Tech doing what he did. Like, I don't know what he's getting paid there, but I'm guessing it's not, he's not going to retire on what he's making. So to put your life on the line, if you will, in this day and age when, like you said, the legal protections, do you open yourself up to liability? I know, like, way back in the day before I was ever in poker, so 15 years ago, I did some asset protection at Walmart, basically being a undercover in plain clothes, walking around trying to catch people stealing. And it was made very clear to us back then, like, we couldn't touch people, we couldn't tackle people. If they just wanted to run out the store with the TV, you just got to let them go and call the police. Otherwise, we could get in trouble. So,
dude, another Chad Holloway life backstory that I didn't know. Former attorney, former asset protector.
I mean, it was that was an interesting job. It was a lot like a poker tournament. It was hours of boredom, but then when you catch that big hand or you catch that person trying to steal and shoplift, it was on. And so it was fairly exciting, but didn't last terribly long, but definitely some valuable lessons there. And like I said, that's one of the reasons I'm so impressed with this particular security guard. So kudos to him. And it'll be interesting. The whole Texas poker scene is very popular right now. I think that I might even try to head down there at some point to check out some of these rooms, meet some of the operators, and do some content for PokerNews. We'll have to wait and see if that happens. But I have a feeling, Sarah, that Texas poker rooms are going to be in the news cycle, going to be talked about here on the PokerNews podcast quite frequently, because it's a market that is starting to mature, and kind of a lot of the wrinkles are getting ironed out, if you will.
That's for sure. And we also would like to talk, though, while we're kind of talking about some of the litigious nature of poker and how we're going to, figure out all these scenes in Texas, what's legal or not legal. We've got a big lawsuit on our hands, which I'm really excited and interested to hear about, headed by Chris Moneymaker. But before we get into that story, we quickly want to talk a little bit about one of our sponsors, Party Poker. The KO series is returning to Party Poker, giving you the chance to win bounties in every single tournament. The series is entirely online and runs from Friday, January 21st through Monday, February 7th, with buy-ins starting as low as $1.10. For tournaments with higher buy-ins, you can win your seat via satellites for as little as 1 cent. You can also try special $10 spins. These are tournaments where you could win a ticket worth up to $1,050 in just minutes. Don't miss Party Poker's KO series, the 21st of January to the 7th of February. Now, I touched just briefly on this. I think this is a really interesting story as we look at how, poker and poker related things crawl or work their way through the legal system, and with none other than poker's, most famous, probably one of the most famous men in poker, Chris Moneymaker, headlining the story.
This is pretty exciting. It's starting off fairly small, but I have a feeling this is going to pick up a lot of steam in the coming months and maybe even years. So those who are in the know might recall that last year, Chris Moneymaker took to Twitter. He was very upset that PayPal had basically confiscated $12,000 from his account. So this was money that he claimed was kind of being exchanged through this fantasy football league that they had. And PayPal came in, froze the account, and ultimately terminated it due to the user agreement, the terms and services, saying that he violated it. And he was understandably very upset, felt it was unjust, didn't feel he was getting very far in his communications with them, so took it public. And Chris Moneymaker has a pretty big voice. As you said, he's one of the most famous poker players in the world. He did cross into the mainstream when he won the World Series of Poker main event. And so he was able to shine a light on it, draw some attention to it. And ultimately, PayPal just kind of refunded it, and I would assume hoped it was going to go away. Well, Chris Moneymaker is not the type to go quietly into the night, and continued the fight. And as we found out, got others who had similar things happen to them to join into this sort of class action lawsuit. Now, Moneymaker isn't a plaintiff in this particular lawsuit that was filed earlier this month, but he is kind of a leading advocate, maybe kind of an advisor, if you will, for this lawsuit that is really involving Lena Evans. And she's been on PokerNews in the past videos, I think even the podcast. She is the founder and plays a key role in Poker League of Nations, PLON, which is one of the leading women's groups in all of poker. She's also a very accomplished player, philanthropist, and many other things. Lena's been around, and she had some money also seized. I think it was $27,000 in funds that she claimed were kind of raised through Poker League of Nations, was going to be used for charity. And what PayPal has done is they just come in and say, no, you're violating it. We're freezing your account. Instead of being like, we're freezing your account, here's your money, you can't use this anymore. They're like, no, we're freezing your account and we're taking that money, which just seems batshit crazy. How is that even legal? And I think that's what Moneymaker is asking too. And Lena Evans, and there's some others that have joined this case. They're looking for others to join this case. So if you've had a similar experience with PayPal, reach out to Chris Moneymaker or Lena Evans on social media, join Poker League of Nations on Facebook, and get in touch with those guys and see what you can do. Because look, I use PayPal all the time. I enjoy it, but it does. And I've always treated these things, PayPal and Venmo and others, kind of like I did online poker accounts. Like, I don't like to leave a lot of money in there because you never know what's going to happen. I like to leave a little bit in, take a little bit out. But it does seem just insane that they can just freeze an account, say you violated the terms, and try to keep, thousands or tens of thousands of dollars.
It seems really crazy. And also that there's just not any sort of like way that you can appeal or go through processes that are, yeah, from a financial institution that's so like widely, I think, accepted and regarded in the country as like a safe place. Lots of just traditional businesses, I think, even at this point, use PayPal. It seems extremely sketchy. And I've heard actually of quite a few poker players who have had this happen. And yeah, I'm like all for it. Like, we need to just open the doors and see what's going on here. Although when you come against a giant like them, and I think Lena Evans is a good person then to sort of face this type of situation, because you definitely need to have some extremely good counsel. And I think Lena is a very well-connected person in Southern California and probably knows some legal giants. I'm pretty sure PayPal probably has really good attorneys though.
Yeah, I think PayPal ultimately is going to very much regret freezing Chris Moneymaker's funds when this is all said and done. And I'm very excited about it for one reason, and it draws a parallel for me in poker history. There was a very famous case back in 1986. It was basically Billy Baxter versus the United States, where the IRS came after Billy Baxter and he decided to really fight back. And he didn't want to settle. He wanted to take it to the end because he was tired of the treatment that the IRS was giving towards poker players. And he ultimately changed the course of poker, really, because in this case, prior to it, whenever you won money playing poker, the IRS would come, after those winnings as if they were like a lottery winning. So let's say I won $100,000. They'd want to tax that $100,000. They didn't care I lost $200,000 the day before, right? They just wanted to tax that. And so Billy Baxter fought. It went to the federal government and he ultimately won, so that gambling winnings can be treated as like a business income for federal income tax purposes, so that you can deduct those losses from gambling winnings. And obviously, that changed the course of things. People probably couldn't be professional poker players if it wasn't for Billy Baxter. And that's why I'm excited about this, with what Lena Evans is doing, what Chris Moneymaker is doing. It's almost like a modern day Baxter versus the United States, in that this could have huge ramifications within the payment processing world. And that, of course, applies to poker a great deal. And so I'm very excited to see how it goes. We're going to keep a close eye on it at PokerNews, and maybe at some point, if and when they're able to talk about it, get Chris Moneymaker, Lena Evans on. And I wish them the best of luck, because I think it's bullshit what PayPal, did, seizing some of their funds. And I'm sure that's happened to many others and in and out of the poker industry. And I think this is one we should all be rooting for, that they can make some positive change for poker players around the world.
100%. I'm totally with you. And, for some of us, 26 or 27K would be a humongous loss. And, I definitely think it's unfair and crazy. All right. Well, we have a lot more really interesting, cool stories, some of which involve some of, my favorite random names, such as Steve Aoki, who I'm pretty sure his sister was playing the World Series this year, and went pretty deep in the main event. I might be wrong, but we'll talk about that when we come back from Chad's interview. Chad, why don't you just tee it up? I'm really, really interested to hear a little bit more about what you guys talked about.
Yeah, so Mike Holtz goes by Brock Lesnar at WSOP.com. This was a name that PokerNews reported on for quite a while, but in 2021 really came on strong by winning WSOP.com Player of the Year. And he did so in pretty dominating fashion. He had an early lead, I think in like March, and then maintained that throughout. And then during the course of that, we actually got to meet him in person at the World Series of Poker in Vegas. Found out that he's quite the character, and one of these guys where it's like, all right, he's burst onto the scene and it sounds like he's going to be around for a little while, which is why I thought it would be a good idea to sit down with the man, introduce him to the audience, get to know him. There's a poker documentary coming out about him that he did with Mike Bailey. So we've got some exciting stuff to talk about. It was a great conversation. Here's my chat with Mike Brock Lesnar Holtz. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am with my guest this week, somebody I'm very excited to talk to, the reigning World Series of Poker.com Player of the Year for 2021, one Mike Holtz, aka Brock Lesnar, on WSOP.com. How you doing, man? Thanks for taking the time to chat with me.
Hey, no problem, man. Appreciate you having me on. Thank you for the intro. Nice.
Where are you right now? You have relocated to Vegas, correct?
Yeah, I moved to Vegas like 4 years ago. I'm in Spring Valley right now, but I'm actually looking for a new place in Summerlin. So I'll be moving there in the next week or so. Just going to rent a place for the year.
When did that happen? Because you're originally an East Coast guy, correct?
Yeah, so I grew up in Ocean City, Maryland. I guess it was I had a lot of success out there. I had played in some home games and Dover Downs Casino and built a bankroll up there. And moved to Vegas like right after the Pulse right after the Mandalay Bay shooting. It was like 2 days after that, so really good timing.
Yeah, that's certainly, that was a dark moment in Vegas. And I actually met you in Vegas for the first time during the World Series of Poker this year, which was great because we've done a lot of updates on WSOP.com for a while now, and Brock Lesnar was a name I recognized, and we don't always get to put a face to the online screen name. So not only did I get to do that, then you went on to win the Player of the Year. So let's start from kind of the beginning of your online poker. How did you get into online poker? How did you discover poker in the first place?
So my buddy Brad, he actually had a home game in his house, and I would just hang out there and just play Call of Duty while they played. And I always just assumed they're gambling, they're all wild, So I actually, I didn't participate originally. And one day Brad was just like, man, you're so good at games. So I played World of Warcraft for many years before this at a high level. She's like, man, you're so good at games, you'd be good at this. So I said, okay, I'll check it out. And for the first couple of weeks, I think I lost, and then eventually started doing well and realized I kind of like this game a lot. Online, Full Tilt or PokerStars actually were the first times I ever played online. I must have been, 16, something like that. And I remember I signed up under my mom's name. Oh my God, statute of limitations.
She's not Brock Lesnar. Just to be clear, right? It wasn't Brock Lesnar back then.
If she is, wow, that would be cool. So I played. I must have been 16, and I won or I chopped actually a $1 $1+1+$1 rush tournament. I didn't rebuy, didn't add on. I had like $1.05. I got like $2,700, and I thought I was the greatest poker player ever to live. Like I was like, it's over, and I remember I just sat in my room the next month, smoked pot and played tournaments and lost everything plus more. And that was it for poker for a while for me. And then online poker, I just started picking up again recently. I played on Bet Online for a little bit, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. did okay, nothing crazy, you know, won like a couple $1,000s. And then when I moved to Vegas, I think I won like a $50 tournament for 5K. And then like I had like some sporadic wins here and there, but I ended up having the most success this year, obviously, where I just crushed all year. I mean, it was definitely the best year of my career by far.
We're going to get into that here in a minute. Before we do, let's talk about that online screen name real quick. There's actually a connection to the Poker News podcast with Brock Lesnar in that Sarah Herring, my co-host on the show, is married to Heath Herring, aka the Texas Crazy Horse from the UFC, who has he's fought Brock Lesnar in the UFC.
30-24 decision, I believe. 3-10-8 rounds. I recall that fight.
Well, there you go. And so we would assume that you're a big Brock Lesnar fan, but what you told me before when we spoke, that's not necessarily the case, correct?
Yeah. So actually, what it is I am a diehard MMA UFC fan. And my screen name before was Bluff Bagwell. And if you're familiar with WWF, WWE, Bluff Bagwell.
I definitely.
So I'm not exactly sure.
Just real quick, I don't want to cut you off too much. Just to show you how much I am, my online screen name when I do play is Disco Chad after Disco Inferno from the WCW.
Sure. Yeah. Oh man, see that's a throwback.
That's
a throwback. So I and whenever originally I came to Nevada, the sites, it wasn't Nevada plus New Jersey. It was they were separate. So I was Bluff Bagwell, and that lasted about 3 weeks, I think, something like that. And then they merged together, and I was sitting there with some friends and we were just chopping up names. And I was like, what if I just named myself Brock Lesnar? That'd be hilarious. And this is when you could chat. So I made myself Brock Lesnar. And then, I mean, probably hundreds of people are like, is that Brock Lesnar? And I would just ham it up with them and pretend I was. And yeah, so that was like, I'm playing $3 and $5 tournaments. And then this year, obviously, like I'm playing everything now. And Brock Lesnar, you can't change your name. So yeah, that's me.
Well, there you go. Let's get into this year. It was winning player of the year, something you set out from the get-go. You said, I'm going to play a lot of volume. I'm going to try to get this. Or did you just have some early successes and then you think, hey, maybe I can win this? What was the player of the year race for you? Like, did you go for it? Did you decide at some point to go for it? What was it all about?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I was just trying to beat my friend Skylar. My buddy Skylar Helma. He plays on the screen Helma on HALAMA on WSOP, and he had won like $13,000, $15,000 in the last week of December. And he called me up and he was talking shit, and he was like, "Yeah, you're playing on those dumb apps." I was playing on like X Poker and Poker 2, whatever. And he was like, "You're doing well, but I'm crushing on WSOP." And I believe I had like a month in 2019. Was it 2019 or 2020? It was in 2020 where I had a really, really good month, like a $40,000 month. And so he was like, "Come back and see what you can do." And so it was like 3 days later, I called him up. He was on vacation. He was like, "I'm taking a week vacation. Good luck. Try to catch me." And so 3 days into his vacation, I called him and I was like, "You got some catching up to do." And they don't put out the player of the year rankings right away. It takes some time. So like even right now, it's January 17th. They don't have 2022 rankings out. They wait for there to be a thing. And when it ended up coming out, I was just like a little bit behind first. And then whoever was in first, I think it was Frank Finaro. He stopped playing for a little bit. I got in first, and then I just kept playing because I was making money. And then it came around in like March, and I was like, man, I might have a chance at this. Like I was a decent amount ahead. And then, I just made a run for it. And after the bracelet events, I was up like, I had 50% more points in seconds. That's when I knew it was over.
Yeah, we don't see this often in player of the year races, both live and online, where somebody just has such a lead and maintains it. I know that Krista Gifford, she is a former WSOP.com player of the year. She won it, I think, in 2019. She was in second place. So to give the listeners an idea, you ended up finishing 2021 with just over 84,000 points, and Krista Gifford came in second with just over 69,000 points. So 15,000 point lead. You had a good lead there. Was there at any point were you worried about it? Were you worried about her, or did you think, as long as I keep doing what I'm doing, I should win this thing?
Yeah, I was worried a few times. The first big worry, so the way WSP.com is, for those who don't know, It's set up in 12 different, every month has a circuit event at the end. It's either 12 ring events or 18. The way Player of the Year works is depending on the buy-in of every tournament, or if they're special tournaments, circuit, bracelet events, they get a multiplier. So if you play a $1 tournament and you win it for $100, you might get 1 point, let's say. But if you won $100 playing $1,000 tournament, I know that doesn't make any sense, but just to give you an idea, that might be worth 100 points because of the multipliers. So the circuit events, I think they either have a 50 or a 75x multiplier. So you have to play the circuits. If you want to win Player of the Year, you have to play the circuits, or else you're going to fall behind. It's a large chunk of points. Same with the bracelet events; they're worth like 100x or 75x. In April, I went to log in my account on, I think it was day 1 of the circuit on April, and I logged in, I registered for the tournaments, and I went to check my Caesars reward balance. I think it was like midway through April, and it said my account had been suspended. So I was like, oh, that's weird, or deactivated. I was like, that's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. I must have done something stupid. And I was thinking, I had my car parked there for like a week, but I'm Diamond, so I get free parking. I'm like, what happened here? And then my WSP account, all of a sudden, I go to log in. Keep in mind, I'm in like $1,000 of the tournaments. I log in, suspended. It says your account's been temporarily suspended or banned, whatever it was. No email, no nothing. So immediately I call WSP.com. I'm explaining the whole thing. The rep gives me nothing. This is the first time I was scared, obviously, that Player of the Year was in jeopardy. So I'm like 3,000 points ahead of Pollux, 4,000 points, maybe 5,000 at this point. But like at this point, every day I was waking up, I was playing every tournament. I knew this is crunch time. If I'm going to win this, I need to put in the volume now. So I called them, and I don't want to go into the whole thing because it's so wild and long. I actually did another podcast on this with Todd Whittles. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah, Todd Whittles. Yeah, he does Poker Fraud Alert.
Yeah, exactly. So I went on his podcast. We talked about it. Basically, I had withdrawn like $160,000 that's cash at the cage over 7 or 8 withdrawals, like a 40, a 30, but 3 or 4 of them were like 9 or 8,000. So there's a thing called structuring. I don't know if you're familiar, if the viewers at home are familiar, but basically it's, as I've learned, it's you basically there's like some sort of thing that gets triggered at 10,000.
Right.
Maybe you know better than I do, but it's at 10,000 it gets triggered. So people try to structure it so that it doesn't get triggered by the IRS. But the whole thing was they were like, I had some of those in January that were like smaller withdrawals because I had won less. And then in March I'd won a decent amount, so I withdrew like 40 and 50, whatever it was, chunks. IRS very aware. And one of those somehow they said flagged an earlier one. So they didn't contact me and tell me that they were investigating me for structuring for 4 days. And then they told me that so very stressful. I didn't know what was going on. I thought there was a million different things. There was one time where, and I know, WSOP doesn't seem like they do a very good job. WSP.com doesn't seem like they do a very good job of like the anti-cheat or anything like that. You never hear of anyone getting banned. You hear rumblings that these guys in New Jersey are using HUDs and RTA and all this stuff. And I never have done anything like that. But on break of a tournament, I checked a hand on BBZ charts just to make sure I did the correct thing. And of course, it's on break, it's after a hand. And I was so worried, like, oh my God, did I check my Jack 10 of diamond shove like 25? It was that like me checking that. Now I'm banned for Player of the Year. I was so scared. And they come back and I'm like, that's got to be it, or my car. And they come back and they say the structuring thing. So they asked for my tax returns. I gave them to them immediately. And then 6 days after I gave them the tax returns, after the circuit was over, all the circuit events are done. That's when they unbanned me, and then they sent me $50 and said sorry.
Wow. So when was this? What month did this kind of happen in?
This is the end of April.
Wow.
So it must have been the 17th to the 18th, and then I didn't get unbanned until like the 27th or 28th. It was the last day of the circuit. Yeah. So I missed out on all that. And then when I came back, she was like 3, and I know that was like a long-winded answer, but she was like 300 or 2,000 points. She was so close to me, like very, very close. And yeah, I remember going into the bracelet events. I was telling all of my friends, like, man, this is do or die. Like 1 bracelet win, she would have been like at the beginning when we started, me and Krista Gifford, Pollux. if she would have won the first bracelet event, she would have been like slightly ahead of me or tied. And we had, I mean, I don't know how much money on the schedule, but way more than I've ever played for. Like the biggest tournament live I've ever played before this year, I think it was a 600 or an 1100, I can't remember. And like now I'm playing the 5300s online and like the 7.7Ks. And this is the craziest thing ever. So I'm looking at this bracelet schedule and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've had a really good beginning of the year, right? But now I'm going to be playing with all the big dogs. In my heart, I was nervous. In my heart, I was scared that I was going to go in these bracelets. I was going to brick $70,000, $150,000 of the buy-ins, and I was going to lose all my money that I'd worked for, and it was going to be back to the sludge pits, or whatever whatever these kooky kids are saying these days. And So I was very nervous, and I alleviated those pressures basically immediately. I think it was. I was going to say. Go ahead.
I'm looking at the results for event number 21, which was a $600 pot limit Omaha 6-handed. You almost won a bracelet in that one, finishing in second place to Brad Rubin. This was and almost $43,000. And that was a stacked final table. So you had Alex Foxen, who came in third place. Dylan Wilkerson was there. So you were playing against these big names. But what was it like to have, this score obviously is big for the player of the year and the points, but also it's, second in a bracelet event. A lot of money. So was it disappointment that you didn't get the bracelet? Were you happy with it? What was that whole experience like in this tournament?
No, I was super excited because I don't know what I'm doing in PLO, man. I mean, it sounds funny, but this is a true story. Okay, Jeff Madsen, good friend of mine, 2006 Player of the Year live. He and I knew nothing about PLO. Like I'm a PLO fish still, but I had no semblance of anything besides watching like some Jay Nandez videos online. So I said to him, I said, listen, man. I know you've had. I think he has a couple bracelets in PLO and PLO 8, and he's a fucking hyper genius. I mean, the guy's ridiculous. Like you talk to him, I mean, he's a genius. And I said, I want you to teach me. So I bought some coaching from him, and we did 12 hours of training. And then we did the first 3 hours was a PLO 8 ring event, and I went over there and I was like, dog, we got 3 hours. Good luck, mate. Teach me the fundamental rules of PLO 8. And I got fourth, and it was like, and it felt easy. And then I think I did then I had a second in a PLO ring event the same week after he had done like an hour coaching. And then the following was the bracelets. And that's where, I got second in the ring against Matt Stout. And then I got second in the bracelet event and third in the other bracelet event. And true story, I'm sitting on my computer, I'm smoking a blunt in celebration. On the second, it is legal in Nevada.
I know. I know.
For the viewers at home. Whoops. So we're in the second tournament. I think I got third in that one. And we're at the final table. And it's either Jesse Fullen or Jeff Platt. I think it was Jesse Fullen because it was the final table. But he was talking to me. He's like, Brock Lesnar, Mike Holtz might be one of the best PLO players in the world here. He got second in the PLO the other night and third. And I am legitimately smoking a blunt, and I don't know the opening sizes. I don't know what size to open to. I'm like, do I pot it? Do I 2.5 exit? And I'm playing both final tables. I think were against Foxen, and it was just absurd. The whole thing was absurd. So I think I have like a natural talent for tournaments and ICM and things like that. But as far as PLO goes, I mean, I would still consider myself a fish, actually.
You talked about the World Series of Poker circuit there for a little bit. I want to jump into that. So you actually had, it looks by my count, in 2021, you had 4 different runner-up finishes, 4 gold rings in the circuit, and then finally in November broke through and won your first circuit ring. What was it like, getting all those seconds, not even taking into account the 3rd or 4th place finishes, and then finally breaking through and getting that ring?
So I didn't really care that much about the ring originally. I wanted some rings just because a few of my buddies had them and I didn't want to be the one left down. I really wanted a bracelet. So the ring didn't matter all that much to me, I thought. But what I will say is after the 4 seconds, when I went heads up against, I think it was Swaggy B, or I can't remember, whoever I went heads up against, I think it was him. I didn't care. I was just like trying to get the cash. And then we were heads up, and I was like, I can't get second again. And I cared more about not getting second again than actually getting the ring. And then when I won, I was like, oh yeah, I got a ring. Yes, sweet, you know. So it's gratifying to know that I'm not perennial second place, but yeah, I mean, I guess better to get second than not the cash, right? So I can't complain that much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ring. I'd like to win a ring one day. That's for sure.
I'm sorry, I sound terrible saying this. Now that I'm listening, it's like, apologies, viewers.
No. I bought a ring once from somebody who won one at a circuit stop, a live circuit stop, and didn't want it, so I gave him $200, and all right, got a little momentum there. So
That's not bad at all. Very interesting, though. I feel like I would do that just off principle, because at some point in that guy's life, you're probably going to be able to sell it back to him for more than $200.
Right. Yeah, it was an investment. I actually did sell it to my boss at the time. He is a big fan of poker, and he lived in London, and I cracked a joke that I would double my money on it, and he said, I'll give you 400 for it. And I said, okay. And it, bought some goodwill with the boss. So that and it was
if you have any investment opportunities in the future, let me know, Chad. You know,
yeah,
I'm always
it was a pot limit Omaha ring as well. So what awesome. We were talking about your online prowess. Do you play live? I mean, I did see you at the World Series of Poker at the Rio, firing a few events. What's your live poker experience like?
So I fired almost every day actually during the Rio. So before I came to Vegas, before I played professionally, I played all live. I played 1-2 cash, occasionally 2-5 cash, and like the monthly tournaments in Delaware, some home games. So I always played live for the most part. When I moved to Vegas, I thought to myself that I was going to be a live cash pro. My goal was, start playing 10-25. I wanted to be the guy who was playing in Bobby's room. I wanted to be the guy that was playing in that tiny room in the Win in the Encore, playing 5-10 or whatever with the Crushers. But it's funny because 1,000 other people also want to be that guy. And live, you get much less hands an hour. There's a lot more variance. You can get much lazier, in my opinion, at least. And I didn't have that much success there originally, but I always did well in tournaments. And after coming back to live, I felt like this time around, I hadn't played since 4 years, 3 years, something like that. Since then, I feel a lot more comfortable. I played basically the whole schedule. I had some good cashes, bricked the main, first time I ever played the main event, but I do want to play more live in the future. Sorry if I'm sorry, my dog is underneath me.
That's all right. I got mine are always behind me and whatnot as well. Yeah. Poker fans obviously got to know you a little bit here after winning WSOP.com Player of the Year. We did an article on PokerNews. We're chatting with you here on the podcast and video, but you're also going to be in a documentary coming out. I know that Mike Bailey, who's done some great poker videos and documentaries in the past, spent time with you, filming you. I got a little sneak peek of the documentary coming out to prepare for this, this interview, and it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. It looks like it's going to be pretty cool. What can you tell, the listeners and viewers about what that project is and how it came about?
Yeah, so, Mike Bailey approached me about 4 months ago. Maybe it was a little earlier than that. Yeah, 5 months ago, something like that. He's actually like a good friend of, was my good friend now, but at the time he was good friends with a lot of my friends. And I had watched For Love or Money, the documentary he had done before, which has like, I don't know, at least 75,000, 60,000 views on YouTube, something like that. I'd watched that. And I had no idea that he had done that. I'd seen that before. And then I think we were just like shooting the shit, and he asked me like some strategy questions about poker. And then he was like, man, I need to find someone like you to like do my next documentary on. And I was like, whip the camera out, boy, like get it started, baby. So, I'm really excited, man. He is talented. Like, he is legitimately talented. That trailer that's out, and it's on his For Love or Money YouTube right now. Go subscribe and like. It is sick. It's got me jazzed up. I cannot wait. And yeah, you've seen the final, or not the final product, but we just finished filming the last interview today. He's putting the rest of the B-roll in there. I think he had 20 minutes of footage or so before that. So I think it's going to come out around 25 minutes, something like that. But man, I'm really excited. He did such a fantastic job.
Yeah, I think it's great what he's doing. I'm excited about this, obviously winning Player of the Year on WSOP.com. is a great accomplishment. And so instead of just seeing a screen name, this gives viewers and fans the opportunity to get to know you. And the bonus of that is you're a pretty cool and fun guy. Like I know a lot of online poker players who don't have much of a personality and, you know, much of a story to tell, but you're, you know, the opposite. And I think that's come through on, you know, this chat that we've had, and it's going to come through in the documentary. And I'm pretty excited to see where you go from here, because I think you're going to be around a long time. Like you said, you want to play live a little bit more. So let me ask, to close this out, what is your plan for the future? Are you going to try to go back to back in the WSOP.com? I think in the documentary you said you think you could, it's just a matter of do you want to?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess results will see. I mean, if I have a bad first few months, I might just decide, you know, it's not worth going for. I will say this, as much as I have issues with WSOP.com, it's unfortunate that they do have such good tournaments, because I will at least be playing the circuit events and the bracelet events. We'll see, I guess, you know. I mean, I think we'd have a much clearer picture in March or April than we will now. But yeah, from the future, I hope you see a lot of me for sure. And yeah, hopefully I get some good live scores here coming up. You know, I'm trying to get some TV time. Let me commentate live at the bike or something, you know. I would love to commentate, by the way. That is one of my goals. I would love to do that one day.
Well, hopefully some people out there see this, hear you, and maybe reach out. They can reach out to me. I'd be happy to put you guys in touch. If there's any fans out there, anybody who does want to get in touch with you, is there any way they can do that? Are you on any social media or anywhere they can follow you?
Yeah, they can check me out on Twitter. I'm Mike Holtz 47, and then I'm Michael Holtz Poker on Instagram.
Awesome, man. Well, congratulations on winning the 2021 World Series of Poker.com Player of the Year. Thank you for taking the time. It's been a pleasure to get to know you, to meet you at the World Series of Poker. And like you said, like, I think you're going to be around and continue to crush it.
Thanks, Chad. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, man, it's been a pleasure meeting you too, and seeing you around poker. Congratulations on the weight loss, by the way. You're looking like a pimp.
I appreciate it. A little ways to go, but hopefully by the 2022 World Series of Poker, I'll hit my goals. So that's the plan right now.
That's perfect. We could be a tag team. I'll lose some weight. We can wear our pants. We'll be like Jared from Subway. Perfect.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I see you there, they do another tag team event at the WSOP, maybe we play together. I was Jesse Folan's tag team partner this last summer. I got to play for like 5 hands, and he left me with, yeah, I need a new tag team partner.
Standard. Yeah, let me know. I'm here.
Sounds good, man. Thanks again for taking the time, and we'll see you around.
All right, no problem, Chad. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Well, I certainly hope and think we will see a lot more of Mike on the scene. And speaking of scenes, the faces of the world of, I guess, DJing, jet setting, drinking, playing, partying, but one of the faces that I think has always been sort of sideline associated with poker is Steve Aoki, and the World Poker Tour has signed Steve Aoki. Now, this is interesting because the World Poker Tour doesn't seem to have signed other people. Like, what's going on, Chad?
Yeah, I think that's about to change a little bit. So Steve Aoki has been associated with WPT a little bit in the past. He was wearing a WPT patch when he played on Poker After Dark last year in Blitz Week, which featured Dan Bilzerian, who, you know, is friendly with Steve Aoki. They've partied together, what have you. Now, the American DJ scene is certainly not my scene, but this is pretty exciting news in that Steve Aoki is a big name. He's got strong ties to Vegas, and he can just reach a very big audience. I mean, he has 8.2 million Twitter followers alone. So I think this is a good signing for the WPT, especially in a day and age where they have to kind of adapt, right? So the face of the WPT for so long was the, you know, late great Mike Sexton. But the WPT is entering a different chapter, a different age. I think that we can expect some more WPT news coming down the pipeline. Let's just say I think they're going to be expanding their product offering, and I think that we're going to see some other brand ambassadors announced. And from what I'm hearing through the grapevine, these are certainly some big names that will make headlines, and I'm sure we'll be talking about here on the PokerNews podcast. But I don't want to, you know, put the horse before the cart here. This is starting out Steve Aoki, brand ambassador.
The cart before the horse.
The cart before the horse. Is that how it goes? Yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's a good signing, I think, on their part, and I think there's going to be more to come. There was another signing too, Sarah, not quite as splashy, if you will, but 888 Poker signed former world champion boxer Chris Eubanks Jr. as a kind of an ambassador. He was a two-time IBO super middleweight champion. He's going to be what's called a cultural ambassador. And it's always pretty good to have these sports, faces of sports come play some poker, compete, and shine a line on it. He's going to join a team of ambassadors that includes Dominic Meach, Vivian Saliba, Kara Scott, and Sam Abernathy. The 888 Poker ambassador roster is kind of thinned out a little bit in recent years. Martin Jakobsen, the 2014 WSOP champ, left. Chris Moorman left. Of course, he relocated to the United States and so doesn't get to play on 888 Poker often, so that makes sense. And then most recently, Sophia Lovegren had left the team. And so they rebounded a bit with this big signing, and kind of in the same vein as Steve Aoki, more of a mainstream player coming to poker, which I always think is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. That being said, I've definitely done plenty of, my share of content with like special guests at events who come from backgrounds that are maybe not like as known throughout the world, where sometimes it's just, like this is like the most famous snooker person or
Right.
whatever, like within whatever industry they're in, maybe they're really fantastic and well known. We've had it with a lot of soccer/football players. Sometimes it doesn't always resonate with everyone else, but I'm sure 888 has a specific goal in mind, and I do think spread the love.
We got to learn to appreciate the things I've learned. So like making headlines a couple months ago was Mr. Beast, right? Like Mr. Beast was in Vegas and playing in these games with Helmuth and in Bobby's room and all that. And I'm like, who the hell is Mr. Beast? Is he a big deal? What is he? Well, apparently he is a really big deal on YouTube. Not my sort of thing. I'm not consuming a lot of content there, but I can at least try to appreciate and adapt. And I think that's what you need to do in poker in this day and age, especially when trying to bring in new players and reach a new audience,
Yeah. Not spending a lot of time on YouTube, Chad. Wow. We're old as balls. But yeah, like he has like 50 million followers or something. Like he's a pretty hefty, like we may just not want to make the comparison between Mr. Beast and the welterweight two-time boxing champions. I forget what you said. But maybe. I'm sorry to that guy if he's listening to this. He looks like a great athlete, and probably I agree. Anytime we're bringing people from outside this industry, traditionally non-poker related people into the game, I think it's ultimately very good. Hopefully all of their followers can jump on board and give us a taste. So yes, you are totally right, Chad. And as we just continue pushing our way along, let's just talk a little bit about GGpoker, who had their biggest Omaha bad beat jackpot. What are we talking about here? What kind of money?
This was $593,000, which is a pretty good bad beat jackpot. And it was the Omaha bad beat jackpot. It was a hand that was quads over quads, which is pretty rare. It was quad kings beating quad queens. And it's I won't go into too much detail. It's hard to relate the hand. I don't want to talk about the hand. You can go to PokerNews. There's an article up. Just search GGpoker. You can see the hand as it plays out. You can see how these players won. So I think the way it broke down was the losing hand, right? It's the bad beat jackpot. So the losing hand got $366,000. The winning hand got $115,000. And this took place at a 6-handed table. So the other 4 players got a table share of just over $29,000 a piece, which is pretty sweet, just sitting there getting paid almost 30 grand. Pretty exciting stuff on GG. We talk about it every week, and I think these bad beat jackpots are pretty exciting. I've never been a part of one in all my years playing poker, both live and online. I've never been a part, not even a table share of a bad beat jackpot, but seeing this happen, Sarah, one can dream.
Dude, I got effed so hard in a bad beat jackpot. It was like, I lost quad kings, and it was in Florida, and it was just like $5,000 or something for the bad beat. And you have to have that bad beat for at least an hour, right? Like no one can beat you for an hour. And everyone was like, this is so like, for sure you've got this. Like for sure you've got this. And then when there was like 5 minutes left, someone at my table offered me like $500. Like, I'll give you $500 to take you're a bad beat jackpot. And I was like, no, that seems like a bad deal. Like this 5 minutes, I only have to make it through 5 minutes. And someone else lost a like straight or whatever, not soon after that, as a straight flush. And I was just,
I was gonna say, I don't think a straight losing a straight call.
No, a straight flush.
Beat,
and it was just so, I could have had 6,000. I could have even had 500, just like I could have taken the 500, but no, I was greedy. I got nothing. I'll never forget, because mama never like wins anything. But while we're talking about GG and them just giving away, more than $500,000, let's hear from our homies at GG.
Hey, I'm Mike Holtz, and I'd like to tell you about Fish Buffet, GGpoker's amazing rewards program. You join Fish Buffet the minute you sign up and start collecting fish points by playing real money poker or casino games. The amount of fish points you earn determines your rank in the program, and also the amount of cash rewards you will be paid. The higher your rank, the better the rewards, with up to 60% in cashback available. Whether you're happy as plankton or want to swim with the whales, Fish Buffet has rewards for everyone, and it's all automatic. Not a GG poker player just yet? Come on and jump in today. Get these Fish Buffet points.
All right, turning our attention stateside, Sarah, there are some of the live events that have been taking place on the West Coast. One of them was the Mid-States Poker Tour, kicking off season 13 at Sycuan Casino in San Diego. The Showdown Series, a bunch of side events, culminated with an $1,100 main event, got 460 runners, ended in a four-way deal that ultimately saw Gianluca Pace take it down for $75,000. It was his first major tournament score, and he defeated a tough final table that included Anthony Petesa, DJ Buckley. They finished in second and third place respectively. Had Buckley won that, he would have made the MSPT Hall of Fame, but came up a couple spots shy. Lena Evans, who we talked about earlier in the episode as part of the Chris Moneymaker PayPal story lawsuit, she was at the final table, finished fifth for $21,000. I hope she does not take her winnings in a PayPal transfer. And we had Rich Alsop, an MSPT Hall of Famer, big name in the Minnesota poker scene, come in sixth place for $16,000. And then, of course, in Vegas right now, Sarah, we are in the middle of the Stairway to Millions that's taking place at the Poker Go studio at Aria. This was a unique tournament, new tournament series, where basically the first event started at an $1,100 buy-in level, and then progressively each tournament, of which there are going to be 8, goes up in price. So on 1,100 to 2,100, 4,200, it basically doubles, 8,400, 15, 8, 25, 52, and the last event will be a $102,000 buy-in with a $1.2 million guarantee. And so the thinking was you can win your stairway to millions by just for $1,100 buy-in, could potentially win millions. It started out with Dan Sepiol taking down the first event, and then Chance Cornuth went back to back. He had a great 2021 and is clearly picking up where he left off here in 2022. And then Celine Adman, who finished fourth in the Win Millions last year, got his first ever tournament win in event number 4. And then most recently last night, Michael Wang, well-known poker pro, took down event number 5, which was the $15,000 buy-in. He took that down for $220,000. So the money's starting to get serious. There's 3 more events, and PokerNews does have daily recaps of each winner. And then, of course, the final tables from each of these events are airing on Poker Go. So if you have a subscription there, you can check it out. My thinking, so I was wondering about the Stairway to Millions. Like, is it going to be a success? Is it not? And I got to say, like, it's performing better than I anticipated. I think it's getting more press and more excitement than I anticipated. And I'm pretty excited to actually see who takes this one down in that 100K that's coming up in just a few days.
Yeah, I'm all about the pseudo steps world. I'm all about like how we can win lots for little if we just work really hard and get a little bit of luck. And, speaking of working really hard, Chad Holloway, I saw that the Global Poker Awards have their list of nominees. PokerNews podcast did not make it, whatever, like I care. Did not receive, I'm used to that. And I noticed, though, that you, in fact, were nominated for an award.
I really was hoping the PokerNews podcast would make that list of 4, but it did not. But hopefully next year, maybe, because PokerNews 2.0 is coming down the pipeline. We've got some exciting stuff in store, and we're really going to try to hit hard and grow the podcast as best we can. Of course, could use your support with that by spreading the word, giving us the reviews and all that jazz. But yes, I was nominated in the best live reporter category alongside three of my really good friends and close colleagues in Mickey Doft, Tim Duckworth, and Christian Zetsky. Look, I think all three of them deserve to win it more than me. They're literally grinding live updates right now while I'm sitting at home, and they've put in a lot of effort and work. And so I think any of them winning is well deserving. If I happen to be the one to get it, I certainly would be flattered. I'm certainly honored to be nominated. And it's regardless of how it turns out, I say honored in that my live reporting career is kind of coming to an end as I transition within PokerNews, right? So for many years, I was doing live updates. I was traveling across the country, across the world for several years, did the updates for the MSPT when I worked for them, and did a lot of updates last year as well, some MSPT events, the Win Millions, the World Series of Poker, of course. But I am transitioning more into an executive editor role where I'm overseeing, managing more people. So I won't actually be so much boots on the ground in the trenches with a notepad in my hand doing the updates, more so the general that oversees the logistics of the battle, if you will. So just to get nominated in what kind of is my last year as a live reporter as my primary duties, it does feel pretty nice, and we'll see. It'll be fun because this is really my first time being nominated. I was nominated alongside Jamie Kerstetter for the LFG podcast several years ago, but this is my first kind of solo nomination, and the first time I had been planning to go to the awards anyways, as we've talked about. So it'll be cool to be there and experience this whole thing and know that I'm on the short list and maybe win it, but if not, get to see some of my cool friends and colleagues up there. And there's some other great categories and nominees. They just came out today. Some of the ones that really stuck out to me that I think are going to be some tightly contested races are like the best final table performance of the year. You have all four nominees deserve it. I think Corey Aldemir in the main event, Jeremy Osmus beating Negreanu and Helmuth in the PLO High Roller, Dan Cage Jungle Man doing his Poker Players Championship, and then Adam Friedman winning the Dealer's Choice for the third time in a row by defeating Phil Helmuth. I think that is awesome. The breakout player of the year is very strong, and Chris Brewer, Kaina England, Johan Guibert, and Vanessa Cade. And then just go to PokerNews. There's an article up there with all the nominees. This is pretty exciting stuff. I think that there are going to be some very tight races. I think this is going to be a very exciting industry event in Vegas coming up on February 18th. There was not a live version of the awards in 2021 because of the pandemic. And so I think there's going to be a lot of drinks consumed, a lot of fun to be had, and I'm really looking forward to being there.
Yeah. And I was just on a side note, really excited to see you on the list. And, I think not dissimilar from, the Academy Awards, there's also while you're moving into this transition type role, I do think there's also some credence given to things from years past and just in general acknowledging people who deserve to be acknowledged within our community, you for sure being one of them. And I think it's interesting actually because we've seen the categories really evolve and change and shift as the years have gone on. And I really think, and the GPI has always been very welcoming to feedback and criticism and what people would like to see more of or less of, or where people are being missed. And I think the farther into this we get, really the more vast the spectrum has gotten in terms of acknowledging so many people that participate in this field and so many kind of obscure, weird roles and jobs people play, but that are absolutely fundamental, to keeping this industry moving. And so I was very excited to see you and several of my colleagues and many pieces of content that I really enjoyed this year got nominated. So we'll see. Chad and I will be there. We'll probably do something from there, maybe a live thing. Maybe we'll talk some opinions.
We're definitely going to rush the stage and cause a scene when the podcast of the year award is announced. And, because it's not us, we're not even nominated, Sarah.
No.
So we've got to go up there and I don't know, interrupt, make a scene, be like Kanye West did to Taylor Swift.
And Jeff Platt will definitely be doing that with us. Like Jeff Platt will definitely be causing a scene with us, I think.
Well, Jeff might be celebrating. He's nominated for a couple of different awards. He's up for Best Broadcaster, which I think is well deserved. And then I'm actually pretty excited to see under Best Media Content for Video, he's nominated for the work he did at the WSOP for Poker Go, the Stand Up For Me Please, where he went into the field and actually interviewed people, which I think was really unique. And I'm very excited to see him nominated there. And I wish he was going to be nominated with us for that podcast, but unfortunately that was not meant to be. But we'll definitely see him there. We'll definitely have some drinks, and it should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys listening, watching. We are in the midst right now of getting ready to launch in a couple weeks the live stream version of our show. We'll keep you guys posted on all of that. We're just trying to kick both the audio and the video up a few notches for you guys and just bring you the absolute best content that we are able to. And we always appreciate your loyalty and of course your feedback. And if you are watching this in the YouTube, if you would do the subscribe bell, this is like a metric we're needing to work on, then you could get notified when we do post new content, which isn't even that much, guys. It won't be that often that you'll get a sub, unless it's during the World Series of Poker, and then you'll get a notification 800 times a day. It's fine.
You know what we need to do, Sarah? We need, for PokerNews 2.0, we got to figure out a way, leave us a good review, let us know that you did it, and then you get a prize or something. I know some other podcasts that do that sort of thing. So, a little incentive, because it's going to help us out a great deal as we try to grow the PokerNews podcast. And, we do it for the fans.
That's for sure.
And I just like to shoot the shit with you, Sarah. It's fun.
That's right. All right, cool. We appreciate you guys, and we will catch you on the flip side. Deuces.